Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's January 17th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And you can see here, we traded mostly down today. We closed way down, even though most of all this move came in the overnight, and we just chopped around on this part right here. And you can see we're really right at that midline again. We haven't been able to pierce that midline yet, but we pierce it this time and move further low on down. We'll just have to see. I mean, you can see really since early December, we've done nothing but gone sideways. This market can't seem to go much higher than it's 48.30 something up here, 48.50. Um, but it can't seem to get below this midline on this envelope band either. So I just don't know where we're going to end up going here. Uh, we could just continue to chop sideways. Eventually, it's going to break one way or the other. We'll have to see. All the severely overbought it's relieved itself quite a bit, so we could go higher now. Um, I mean, the problem we got here is we've already baked in rate cuts for next year, or for this year since we're in 2024, and now it's a lot looking like they can't cut rates. So if they don't cut rates, probably on the next somewhere between now and the next announcement, then this thing could sell off because we've already baked in a rate cut, and so we'll see if the market's always way ahead of what actually happens, and sometimes they get it wrong. And it's looking more like it's possible because we still have inflation kicking in like crazy. So um, the last inflation reports kind of fooled everybody, I think, and were a bit surprising. And so we'll see what happens. I'm not going to try to guess, and you can't tell by looking at this chart. We're just working sideways. I mean, there's nothing else you can see here. So anyway, mostly down day, or mostly all the downward movement again came in the overnight, but really from the regular session opened on, it was just a range, a tight range at that. But let's flip over there. We'll take a look. We'll go through the trades. Not a lot of trades today. There's some trades there, but flip over there, take a look, and go through the trades. And I'm going to move it quick because it's already getting dark here, and the roads are getting crazy. I mean, it's not so much that the roads are even so bad if you've got the right kind of vehicle. But you got 20,000 plus students here that are out of class and bored to death, and they're out riding around, and they don't have any common sense, and there's wrecks. I went to lunch. It took me an hour to go. What usually takes me 3 minutes, even when the snow was here, 5 minutes, because of wrecks. You know, they got traffic backed up everywhere because they're all in the ditch or sideways in the road. It's just a total disaster here right now. So I'll be glad to get this week over. It's supposed to get above freezing by a degree or two for a couple of hours tomorrow. Please, I pray that it the roads clear some because it's insanity around here. I mean, I don't know why these kids have to get out and ride around, and but it's not just them too. It's other people get stir crazy sitting in the house for so long, and they have to get out, and it's just dangerous out there. It's not even, if you know what you're doing, it's not too bad. But we got too many people here that don't know how to drive in it, don't have the right kind of vehicle, right tires, and they're just slipping and sliding and going everywhere. So I know that's not y'all's problem. You probably didn't even want to hear that, but I'm just venting a little bit because it's been frustrating for me the last couple of days. What is an issue should be a fraction of what I have to go through because of all the nutcases around here that want to think they can get out and drive and don't know how. But anyway, let's flip over to the intraday chart, 2000 tick intraday chart, and go through the trades and wrap this day. And here's our chart, and we had two legs down early. We didn't quite get that measured leg. It didn't look like we were going to get it, but we ended up getting it plus some. Um, Notice that this was the original range that started around 8, just before the opening, and around 8:30. We broke out of there, failed, traded down, broke out the bottom, moved a perfect measured move. That's what this line is here based on the width of this. And then we had two legs up, another correction, and then we trended up some into the close. And that's probably people just buying back their shorts. They don't want to carry them over, day traders that can't carry them overnight. Would be my guess. We do every time we get a good sell off, just into the close, this huge buying comes in. It's just my guess is was all day trader selling, and they're just buying it back right here, taking their profits at the end of the day. So, but there it is. You can see it. When we didn't make this measured move to the upside, that's a good sign that we're probably going to go further to the downside, and we clearly got two legs there, a bit more than a measured leg, really. So, and then we had two measured legs up here with the correction before we went higher into the close. But let's zoom in here, go through the trades, and we'll wrap today up. There was news item at 7:30 this morning. There was a nice setup here right at 7 o'clock, lower high. It's also the second entry was right here, so this is just a lower high off a second entry. I like that trade because once you get two legs up, there's a good chance you're going to get another measured leg down or attempt at one. So I figured we'd try to go lower here, even if we don't get the measured leg. And we ended up with a pretty good downtrend right here. And then later on in this, you get this second entry just after, just about 7. Let's just see what time that bar. 7:40. So this bar, so it's like 10 minutes afterwards, and you could see there wasn't really much, this didn't have much effect over here. So you might take that second entry right there on that lower high. I marked it green because it's real close to the news, and you need to understand what's going on there. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know that there's a news item there and they're trying to trade during that time and they can't figure out what happened. But make sure you have your news. If you don't have a news guard that you can put on your chart, you can go to most of these Forex sites have a daily news, and you're only interested in the high volatility U.S. stuff. Don't worry about anything else. You can see there was two of those, the two red ones today. I don't care anything about this industrial production at 8:15. That stuff rarely makes. I mean, you can see it looks like we did get a little something here. Is this at 8:15? That's 8:10. 8:12. So no, this wasn't even. Got a little jolt right there. So I doubt that even had anything to do with the news. I don't worry about anything but the high volatility, the red stuff that's U.S. So if you don't have this, just go each morning to one of these Forex sites, look for their news. They all have them, and look at their high volatility U.S. news during our regular trading hours from 7 o'clock to 2:30. But anyway, you have a hidden second entry right here. That's our first break of the trend line. It's still everything's still closing underneath the key entry point. Very bearish bar. It's a hidden second entry, so I marked it green. If that doesn't make sense to you and you're new, then don't worry about it. It's a little more advanced. But basically what I'm saying is if you went to a slightly smaller chart here, you would see a second entry. But on this chart that we're trading, it's not a second entry, so it's a little more advanced. It's for more advanced traders that can read the chart a little better, that are more skilled at it. Most of you, if you're new, you should not be trying to trade those. So it turns out to be a nice trade. Probably get a runner there. And this runs on down. Then we get a correction here. I just don't see anything you can really trade there. This is all too choppy and sideways and congested. Breaks out, comes back. And again, I just don't see anything here you can trade. Runs up, you get a break, new high. Again, I don't see, if this would have been a little more bearish, maybe, because it is a second entry short, but it's just too neutral of a bar. We run back down, too congested, not a really good setup there. Same thing here. We're just chopping sideways, and it's too choppy. It's too. This one was tempting, and then of course when it fails here, it's really tempting. I didn't know whether to. I looked at this one really closely, but it's a chance to get chopped up. But look what it is. You get a first entry, and right here you had a second entry long. But it looks like it could be congested there, and it turns out it is. And then it looks like it's going to be a failure, which it is. We would have got it. It did catch enough people off guard that probably went long right there. That it ran down real quick. But as soon as they ran everybody's stops, it broke lower one tick. When you see that and fails and goes right out the other side, now they got them dropped the other way. And so by that time it was obvious, and you got a little more room to the top here versus what you had to the midline here. And so I like that one a lot better. I marked it blue because it was obvious they were chopping people. And that's what happens to most people. They get chopped up over and over there, and they lose once. They think okay, I got trapped, and it's a trap, so I'm going to trade the trap. And then they find out it's a double trap, and they get trapped again, and they lose twice. And then they see the perfect setup here, and they can't take it because they done got chopped all to pieces, and it goes right where they thought it was going to go. So just be careful. Don't outsmart yourself. You'd be surprised how many people will send me something here and say, "Oh, I thought it was a trap and I took it, and I got trapped, and then that trap turned out to be a trap too, and what could I have done different there?" Don't trade the trap, because you really need to know what you're doing. I mean, if you took the short trap here, you're fine. It was the second entries that really got trapped because this trap, even though it didn't continue on, you still would have easily got your scalp, and it would have been quick. And then it reverses, and it's hard to reverse from one direction to the other. So most likely you probably only got one of these, and this was the better one. So it runs up and it breaks out here and it fails. Notice you got a new low here, first entry, and this is a second entry short. And this actually broke higher and failed and turned down. So I like trading it on the engulfing bar. I don't think you want to go short right here. It's too close to the lows. It looks like it might have still worked, but I wouldn't take that because you don't have room to get out. So yeah, there just is enough room to scalp out there. So it would have worked, but it's not worth taking if you wait till this bar closes. Chop along, then you get a failed breakout here, but we're coming off the high of the range. This could easily go lower, so you really, I think you need a higher low here, and you never get it. It just runs straight up, and you get this correction, and you're just chopping around here again. There is a triple test here, and this is not really congestion. You don't really get that no-bodied bar like you do here. So you could take that one. It's not ideal, but it is a triple test. We tried to go higher twice. You do get a pretty good signal bar there. It's not really congestion. If you didn't enter on this bar, you couldn't enter it. But you had to kind of ride out the correction most likely. But it turns out to be a pretty good trade, and you probably would have got a runner on it if you held on and let it take off. Can't enter here, too congested, right into support. You don't want to go long there, and you can't go short there. It gets on back in here, and look what happens. You get another hidden second entry right here on a pullback to retest the support, and of course it acts as support, gives you that big bearish bar. I like going short there. It's a hidden second entry, so I made it green. It's not red, but if you understand what's going on there and you're more experienced, that's a good trade. And it runs all the way to the other side. I didn't mark this long. It does bounce right off the previous support, and you do have your break and a couple of legs down. So, it should probably at least be green. And it's a perfect measured. Actually, that's not a measured leg. That's the first leg. And then now we're looking for the measured leg. That turns out to be a pretty good trade. But, if you didn't take it here, there's nowhere to enter here. And then you get your break. You got a little channel working up real tight. You get a break. Couple of swings up to a new high, and this actually breaks higher and fails and turns down. You can't trade that one on the engulfing bar because it doesn't have any body. Don't trade those there because it could be congestion. But when this closes that bearish, I like going short there. And again, this turns out to be a pretty good move. And it just keeps working lower. There's no other entries in here. That's just the first entry. Signal bar is no good. And you can't enter way down here. And once you get to the measured move, then you know this thing's probably ending. But when it kept going lower, you had to figure it's probably trying for a measured move based on the width of this range. And that's what it does. It goes a little further than that, and then it rallies. And this is another one. You could mark this green. Trying to pick tops and bottoms is what breaks most people. So you don't want to try to do this a lot. Again, you're better off to wait on a higher low. but you don't get a higher low till way up here, and that's not a tradable higher low. We've moved, prices have moved too far. Then you get a first entry, second entry on the first break, and that's right at the original measured move mark. Notice we bounced there a few times, so that was an important price spot. So I like taking that long. You're just looking for a retest of the high, maybe a retest of here, but this thing takes off. That turns out to be a really good trade. And it runs up. You probably, this really plays out here. I usually don't draw the retest, but since this one keeps going, I'd probably draw this and let it play out. And notice you get a break and a couple of legs up, and it moves that measured move of the first leg. And look how far away you are from the EMA. And this is actually a new low because it broke lower here, then went higher, and then came back again. So that's a new low. So that is a first entry, second entry, and that's just like 4 ticks or something. Normally I'd probably make that green, but with it being 4 ticks and a second entry and 2 legs up on the second entry on a bigger picture, which that's what that is. That's a second entry on a much larger time period. And you might or might not get a runner out of that depending on how you played it. And it just runs on that. There's no other entries here. And there's a possible long right there, but because that's an inside bar, if it would have ticked lower, I'd call that a high or low, but that's just an inside bar, so I probably wouldn't take it, even though it's a second entry long. So, I mean, you might argue to screen, but that late in the day, being an inside bar, I probably would not take that trade. But I'll mark it green. And there it is. That's how I saw it. Not much else you can say about today. It's, again, all the movement came early, and then we just chopped around. And I mean, we've been doing this for weeks now. It's just, I'm ready for something to happen. I know everybody is. It will at some point. It's, it could go on for more weeks like this. But at some point, this thing's going to fail to go higher and it's going to go lower, or it's going to fail to go lower and it's going to go higher. I mean, that's what the market does. It tests support, it tests resistance, and if the resistance gives, it keeps going higher until it finds resistance. It won't give, and then it tests it a few times. If it can't get through, then it starts testing support. And if it finds enough support, it'll go higher, and it may get through the resistance the next time. And if it does, it might keep trending. But if it doesn't, but that's what prices do. They just test constantly support and resistance. So keep that in mind, and that's where prices are usually headed, to test the next support or resistance, the last breakout, especially if it hadn't tested that breakout. Even if it's tested it, it wants to test it again, most likely, to be sure. And so prices do that over and over. They tend to do it in twos. The market moves in twos. That's why we're looking for these measured legs all the time. And I will say this, somebody asked me about taking a trade at a measured move. We don't really use the measured moves to take a trade. However, if you get a setup based on a measured move, then you might want to take that setup. But we're not really, what we use the measured moves for is just to get an idea where our target is in that direction. And then once you reach that target, because you see here, it looked like we might move to measured move, but it still went lower. And it can do that. This is just a target that we're looking for. So as long as you're still getting setups on the way to that target, you probably want to keep taking it, because the odds are that's where we're headed. And we could go further. We could come up short. Like here, we came up short, but it gave you plenty of evidence it was coming up short before it went higher. And then it came up short of this target because it should have made a measured move, and it didn't. So that generally tells me, hey, we're probably going to go further in the other direction. And then we get 2 legs down. And there are more than 2 measured legs. And then we get 2 legs up, and then another correction. And it looks like we got 2 legs here at the end. Let's measure those. And there those are. And sometimes if you just watch, if you don't measure, sometimes there's a lot of extra stem, and you can kind of ignore that. If you take those stems out of there, I mean, you really get two perfect measured moves. So anyway, that's what we use the measured moves for, more for targets. Now, once you've reached that target, if you do get a good setup in the other direction, a triple test, or a break of your range and a new high and then a lower high, or maybe even a newer high that sets up really nice to go short like this one did, maybe you take it. But you just understand that we don't necessarily use the measured moves to set up a trade. They're just finding the targets, the areas we're expecting prices at a minimum to go to, and then you might see either a correction for a little bit or sideways or a little bit or even a reversal. We don't know exactly what prices will do. See, we had a correction here, but they didn't reverse. They went a little further. And that's because we had another target down here that was based on this original channel, and it had taken precedence since this original two legs down. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. It's going to wrap up our week. Just a reminder, if you haven't heard yet, I'll be gone all next week. I'm taking my family on a cruise. It was a Christmas present. We're all going to be gone for the whole week. I'll have probably no access to email, and I'll just be gone for a week. It'll be a true vacation for me. And you guys and gals will have to bear with me while I'm gone and make it while I'm gone. I know it's really quick after 2 weeks at Christmas, but we'll get back from that, and I probably won't be going anywhere for until springtime. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.